My crazy stepsister is absolutely obsessed with me, guys. Listen to this. I made a photoshopped picture with my girlfriends just joking around. We photoshopped our picture of our head. We made our heads bald. Guys, when I return from the girls' trip, you won't believe what my parents are blaming me for. Well, it turns out my stepsister, she saw the photo and she thought it was real. So she decides to go and shave her own head. And it just doesn't end there. It gets so much crazier.
Hey there, I'm a 17-year-old girl who was all eyes on in her school, and this has caused me serious issues beyond the walls of the school. I'm currently not living with my father. My father, my mother, and I used to be one big happy family. And it's shocking when I tell people that I cannot say what caused them to split up. I believe, however, that things have been going awry for a while, but they just kept it from me. So I lived in delusion that we were still growing strong as a family. You can imagine my shock when both my parents told me that they would be going their separate ways. Their separation, however, did not make either of them abandon me. I lived with my father, and I often visited my mom. My mother remarried 6 months after her divorce to a man who had never been married, while my father equally found love again. It initially hurt to see my parents remarry, but there was nothing I could do as I understood that they had to move on with their separate lives. The issue, however, began when my father got married. The lady he got married to, my stepmom, is called Camelia, and she has a stepdaughter called Sasha, who is about my age. The moment Sasha came into my life, she began to act weird. If I put on a certain kind of dress, she would want the same one or a better one. She closely followed me and tried to better me in everything that I did. It was as if we were in some sort of competition. She wanted everything that I had, and now I'm the cheerleader of the cheerleading group in my school, so yeah, I'm known. It did not take long for Sasha, in her usual way, to attach herself to my group of friends. She tried to gain a certain level of influence within the circle, and I ignored all the actions of my stepsister, as I was never really threatened by her, but she went overboard when she began, making advances at my man Max. I know this for a fact because I observed the way that she was around him on several occasions, and I almost felt that they had something going on behind my back until I confronted Max. Before confronting Max, however, I confronted Sasha at home, where I told her to back off from Max because I had observed the way that she was drooling over him. But she immediately reported the matter to her mom, that I was making these false accusations at her, and Camelia called me delusional and asked me to never tarnish the image of her daughter again. Otherwise, she was going to make sure that it did not end very well for me. I didn't say anything to anyone, not even my friends, but I kept my distance from Sasha, even while we shared the same friends. I just confronted Max. He was the one who opened up to me about how Sasha reached out to him via Facebook. He tried to be friendly with her, as she was my stepsister, but the whole thing started to go out of hand. Max showed the contents of their chats, and I marveled at what I saw. Sasha was the one doing most of the talking, and all she did was give my boyfriend a million reasons why he was wrong to have me as a girlfriend. I decided that it's time to deal with her disgusting attitude. Now guys, don't go and get me wrong, my boyfriend is a catch, and several girls had done their best to displace me, but I was not as angry as I was when I discovered my own stepsister was the one trying to snatch him. I questioned why Max had kept it from me all this while, and he noted that he didn't want to seem like the boyfriend who would come between sisters. He then gave that smile that always made ladies powerless and noted that he could never trade gold for dust. Well, I was pleased with my man's loyalty, but I still knew that I was not going to let the matter slide. I informed my girls about what was going on, and they were so mad that somebody from among us would take to another man's boyfriend. This was like our own girls' code, you know? You don't roll with your ex of your friend. I went straight to our class group chat on WhatsApp and called out Sasha while labeling her, a very slur word. Sasha did not see the post in time, but she observed the next day that the whole class was strangely looking at her. Even though she could not tell why, she attempted to join me and the girls at the cafeteria where we were having snacks in mid-afternoon. But we all stood up and left for another table the moment she sat down. She got the memo pretty quick after that, and we did not need her company. She then reached for her phone so she could hide the embarrassment by doing something else with it, and I immediately posted, this woman being hypocritical, on the WhatsApp group chat, and she could see it since she had her phone right there in her hands, and everyone began to comment on my post and even drag her. My friends and I laughed as we saw the hilarious comments that were made about Sasha. It was in the midst of that I heard Sasha scream, and immediately felt something hit the back of my dress and splutter all over it. It was the food that she was eating. Well, I immediately reacted, and we were engaged in a fight with the students cheering for them to deal with her. Some teachers rushed to the scene, and we were taken to the principal's office, where Sasha and I were suspended for 14 days. Well, the school was about granting the students a 1-week break, so it meant Sasha and I would miss only 1 week of schooling. My father and Camellia both came to pick us up from school, and Camellia was busy trying to defend Sasha right there at the principal's office, while claiming that I felt threatened by her daughter ever since she got married to my dad. My father, he just kept quiet as he felt embarrassed that his daughter and stepdaughter have been involved in a fight at school. Sasha cried on the way to the house as she told Mom that this was all because of me. The whole school now saw her as a slur word. Well, isn't she? I didn't say anything in the car because I knew if I had spoken Sasha, and I would have probably engaged right there into another fight. Camellia ranted all the way home about how I have been seeking different ways to make her daughter's life absolutely miserable. She rhetorically asked which girl in her right frame of mind would humiliate family simply because of a man? Well, any girl who would be wicked enough to attempt her family's boyfriend was deserving of every humiliation that she got. We got to the house, and my father, who was overwhelmed by the nagging of his wife, immediately grounded me, and this was injustice at its peak, and though I was mad, I didn't say anything until about a week later when my friends and I were supposed to go on a 2-day camping trip. I went into my father's room that evening to tell him about my desire to go. I immediately was done, and Camellia turned to him and said that he had spoiled me to the point where I was no longer regarding him. Otherwise, well, how would I be asking to go on a camping trip when he had told me that I was grounded? The woman is such a jerk, and I had so many things which I wanted to say to her right there. But I knew better than to speak at that point. My father asked me to call my friends and just cancel the trip, as I would simply not be going. Camellia immediately added that I wanted to go on a trip with the very friends whom I had chosen over my stepsister, and obviously I just ignored the comments. I knew that my father's decision was influenced by what his wife had said and would say, but I was not going to have it, so I protested. My father resisted, so I kept calm till the next day when I packed my bags and told him I was going to spend the weekend at my mother's place. Well, everyone knew it was a tactic for me to go on the trip, but not even my father could stop me, as he didn't want it to seem like he kept me from my mom. I got to my mother's place and told her about the things that had been going on. Well, you can tell that my mother was not very happy at all with Camellia for trying to turn my father against me. Well, she was equally not pleased with the way my father was dealing with the issue. She did not badmouth him, no, and she did not make excuses for him either. She told me to always keep her posted about the situation so she would know when to step in. I went on the trip with my girls, and well, we had the time of our lives, but I never knew that the fun I was having had created problems for me back at home. An incident occurred while I was on the trip with my girls. We talked about how we look if we were bald, and we even joked about cutting each other's hair. While we were at it, somebody took a photo and used a photo app to edit it, and this was how we edited our images to make our heads appear bald. It was so real that you could not even tell the difference, and we posted the images and just forgot about it. Guys, the trip was soon over, and I got back home to my mother's and stepdad's house, where I surprisingly found my father, Camellia, and Sasha seated in the parlor discussing with my mother and stepdad. I knew something was up because it was not a reunion. Something stood out in the room. It was Sasha's head. She had gotten her head shaved. and I was curious to know why, but I could not ask, well, as we were not on talking terms. My mother, she asked me to keep my bag and come join them in the parlor, and then I did. Well, she noted that the reason they were all gathered, and I was shocked because I have been away for the past few days. What could I have possibly done this time? My mother then said my father wanted me to apologize to Sasha for misleading her. Well, I was confused. I looked in my father's direction and he was frowning, and I noted that I did not understand what was going on. So Camellia immediately snapped. She asked me not to pretend, as they were already aware that I had posted images of me with a shaven head just to mislead Sasha to do the same, only for her to straight up discover that it was a hoax when I posted the other images. Well, I burst out laughing so darn hard. I don't think I ever laughed as hard as I did that day. And it made Sasha, who was seated there, break down in absolute tears. Camellia was raging, so she screamed at me at the top of her voice, but my mother and stepdad immediately stood up for me. That's right, they sure did. They told her that Sasha was a grown female, who should have known better than to buzz her hair off. I then said that what had happened was proof that Sasha had always sought to be better than me at everything, and that was why she was seated with a shaven head. Camellia responded by saying that I had deliberately set up the whole thing because I knew her daughter was far more beautiful than me. Another round of laughter erupted within me, and the whole thing was comedic. I said Sasha was stupid enough to try to copy me steadily, and I would rather die than offer an apology. My confidence came from the presence of my mother and stepfather, and my father stood up and said that if I were not going to offer Sasha an apology, then I would never step foot in his house again. I stood up in anger and said it was fine, and I stormed off to my room with a broken heart and in anger. Sasha, on her own, was too bitter not to act drama, so she chased after me to my room, but she was lucky her mother came after her. Otherwise, she would have been bruised. Camellia dragged her out the door, and she threw tantrums as they left the house, and I'm currently staying with my mother, and although I'm not happy with my father, I do miss him. Update number 1. It's been 2 weeks since this whole drama with Sasha in school officially resumed. I had people bombarding me with all sorts of questions regarding Sasha on the first day that I resumed school. They said that they had heard I had done something to Sasha, but I did not make any comments regarding the matter. I didn't want to stir up the whole water, since I felt that Sasha had gotten what she deserved. Sasha was not in school that day, but she showed up the next day with a wig. Students were concerned and reached out to her to find out why she had on a wig. To my great surprise, I saw my boyfriend Max sitting beside her in the cafeteria and having a discussion, which I did not know what it was all about. I had come to the cafeteria with my friends, and the moment I saw my boyfriend sitting with her, I had just walked out. Max knew that I was angry, but he did not come after me. Well, I wondered what was going on in the world. It was when school was over that he tried to reach out to me, but I snubbed him. I got home that day and I discovered a post that Sasha had made on her WhatsApp. I think it read something like, "My baby still cares after all." And she put up the picture of my boyfriend. Even though I was so mad, I still loved my boyfriend and was not willing to let Sasha have him. So I was the one who confronted him the next day. I asked if he was already considering dross for gold, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. Max said that he would never do such a thing, but noted that he was only trying to be human when he reached out to Sasha, who was dealing with such a life-threatening illness. Now, he had me confused by that statement, and I had to ask for a detailed explanation of what he meant. Well, Max, to my surprise, said that he had heard that Sasha was diagnosed with cancer and was undergoing chemotherapy, which was the reason for her hair loss. He then said that he was only trying to sympathize with her at the cafeteria and when I saw them, and Max did not expect my next reaction. I immediately busted out laughing, and he looked startled. He began to talk about how Sasha was still my family, and despite that she may have done stuff to me, her battle with cancer was enough to make me let the water pass under the bridge. I didn't need to ask how he and the rest of the students had gotten the cancer news, as I knew it was her who must have started it. I simply told him the truth behind why Sasha had bald hair, and he joined me in laughing, and I went to our class group chat when I got home that day and posted about how Sasha was just leading everyone on in her life. My post was somewhat brief, but it hit the nail on the head and began people dragging Sasha all over again. The heat, it was simply too much for her. So she immediately texted me to delete the chat, and I ignored her, and the next thing was my father calling me frantically. I knew it had to be related to the post that I had made, so I did not pick it up. He and his wife texted me too and made the same demands, but I still ignored them. My mom suddenly stormed my room and asked what was going on with Sasha because my dad had sent her a disturbing text about me still making trouble. I told my mother what had happened, and she asked me to take down the Sasha post as everyone had had enough of the drama between my stepsister and me. So I took the post down, but Sasha did not show up in school for the next few days, and most students had already seen my post and it was spreading like wildfire. I was happy about her absence, and I used it as an advantage to clarify further for those who came to me about the issue. Soon Sasha returned to school and stayed on her own, but this did not stop the students from making snide comments when she passed. She felt embarrassed, and she took it out on me when I went into the bathroom during the break period. She came to me from behind and pushed me to the ground as she continued her assault. I was lucky enough that someone heard my screams and rushed into the bathroom to rescue me from her. I suffered a broken arm and some bruises, and Sasha left the bathroom while I was taken to the school infirmary. Well, our parents, my mom and dad and Camelia, were summoned to the school principal the very next day, and he showed CCTV footage of Sasha and me going into the bathroom, and Sasha coming out with a smile. His emphasis was on the fact that my stepsister and I were both causing too much drama in the school as of lately, and he wanted to suspend us again, but for a much longer period. Well, anyways, we were able to deal with our issues, and from what I heard, I was at the school infirmary when this happened, but my mother stood up to the principal. She claimed that the principal was biased in all his judgment, as the CCTV footage clearly showed that I went to use the bathroom some minutes before Sasha, but she came out before me with a smirk. Well, Camelia attempted, as usual, to defend her daughter, but my mother threatened to sue both the principal and the school if they meted out any punishment to me. She insisted that Sasha alone was to be disciplined, and I was given time off school to heal. And I'm getting better, but the principal noted that he would let us know what the decision would be after the matter had been properly deliberated upon. I'll update you guys. Update number 2. Hey, it's me again. Well, this update is coming a month after the last one, and it'll be brief because nothing much happened. I've spent most of it in the hospital, and after the saga at school, my mother did not just sit down and wait for the verdict. She claimed that with the way the principal was going about the incident, the matter could just be unjustly dealt with, so she filed a complaint to the school board against Sasha for bullying and attacking me, and against the principal for attempting to be biased in his analysis of the situation. The school board held a meeting, and it was decided that Sasha would be expelled while the principal was put on a strict invigilation. Thumbs up to my mom. This is something my dad would have done. Well, but he did the very thing he has always done when it comes to Sasha and me, is take her side. I was at the hospital with a broken arm, and I expected my father, who saw me in the pain that day. You know, his stepdaughter broke the arm of his daughter, to reach out and at least show some care. But I never heard a word from him, not even a peep. Not even a call to check up on me or get me a get-well-soon flower. The person who I never expected was the one who showed up at the hospital. Camelia. Surprising, right? Well, she did not just come to sympathize with me or to apologize on behalf of her daughter. I was not expecting her to, because she's still an idiot. I was alone in my ward when she walked in. It was awkward for me because we were not the best of buddies, and I have been put there by her daughter. I just stared at her in curiosity, and she went straight to the point by trying to verbally attack me for attempting to ruin the life of her daughter. Camelia said that, thanks to me, her daughter has been expelled from school, and she had lost her online fellowship after being, well, disgraced and humiliated. If I had both my hands functioning at that point, I would have fought that woman. Her daughter was the reason why I was in the hospital, and all she could say was that I had ruined her daughter's life. The best thing I could wish for anyone to have in life is a mother like mine. My mother walked in at that moment, and when it came to Camelia and Sasha, Mom was always ready for a fight. Camelia immediately shut up as she saw her. Mom was not sure what Camelia was doing there, but she was certain that she brought a problem with her. So my mom asked her to leave. Camelia pointed to the fact that I had not received a call from my father, and that was why she was in the hospital to see me. She said that she had come in person to tell me that my father never wanted to see me around his house again, and Camelia said it would be best if I stayed out of their lives for good. My mother immediately asked her to leave, otherwise she would be the next patient that the hospital admitted. Camelia left the hospital, and I picked up my phone to dial my father's number, but he never picked up one of the 7 attempts that I made. Tears swelled up in my eyes, but I fought hard not to let them fall. My mother, who was sensitive enough to know the emotional pain that I was probably going through, sat on the bed and hugged me tightly. I've decided to let all that concerns Sasha, my father, and Camelia stay behind me, and my focus is just on my mom and me. Final update, a whole year later. Hey guys, I know that it's been a year, but I thought that I had to put the part of my life behind me that was full of drama. But it seems that no matter what I do, my stepmother and sister would always be on my tail. My mom and I have been focusing on our lives for the past couple of months, and my boyfriend Max has been very, very supportive. He would send me flowers every week, and he made sure my weekends were not spent at home. We were in our final year of high school, by the way, and these outings were a great help to me, as they helped me heal from the fact that I had no father, even though the man himself was still alive and doing very well. So, Max and I went to the mall a few weeks back, and Camelia and Sasha resurfaced there. They've been tailing me for a while. Max had gone to use the restroom, and I was cornered in a section of the building by these two. I was surprised but not glad to see them. I wanted to leave right away. Well, but they would not let me. The apple indeed does not fall from the tree, because Sasha was a bully and it was clear where she had picked it up from. Camelia said that while her daughter was constantly hiding away in the house because I had tarnished her image, I was busy having the time of my life with my boy toy. I told her that Sasha, who was standing right there, deserved all that she got, and I was not sorry for whatever humiliation she faced. Camelia then threatened that they would both deal with me right then and there if I did not promise to go back to the school board and tell them that I had staged the fight and lied against Sasha just to get her expelled. Well, I looked at both of them and said it would only happen over my dead body, and they began to close in on me, so I used my legs and the strength I could find to kick Camelia in between her thighs, and I began to scream for help. Max immediately appeared out of nowhere, and they fled. He took me straight home, and I told my mother what happened, and you know what? My mom was enraged, so she immediately calls my father and just straight up demanded that they meet somewhere. My father met with my mother and asked how I was doing, and the only answer that my mother gave to that question was that he would have known if he ever cared to stay in my life. My mother went ahead to say that the reason why she had arranged the meeting between them was because she wanted to warn him to keep his woman in check. Otherwise, she would file a case against them. She narrated what had happened to me and my father and noted that she did not expect him to defend his own daughter, but she would make sure it rained hell upon them if his wife and stepdaughter did not stay out of our lives. My father started to call my line that very day after he and my mother met, but I refused to pick up. He finally sent a text message in which he apologized and asked that we meet somewhere. Well, I replied after some days that even if I were willing to meet with him, I would not come anywhere close to where his hounds were. My father then suggested we meet at a park. So we met the next day, and he began to apologize for staying out of my life, and he then talked about how he and Camelia have gotten into a fight the previous day after he learned of the assault that they wanted to launch on me. He said that all he and Camelia did was argue, and he was already tired of it. According to him, he said that Camelia has suggested they move to another city so Sasha should start new. But he said no. The whole thing ended that day with him wanting to come back to my life. But this was not something I wanted because those two were still present in his life, and the whole drama would just start up again. The issue between my father and his family is more serious than I thought. It was weeks before I heard from my father again, and this time, he showed up at my mother's a few days ago looking worn out. It was clear he had no peace in his life. He didn't mind that he was in the midst of me, my mother, and her husband. He just began expressing his frustration. He said that Sasha was a lost cause. He was tired of his marriage to Camellia and felt a certain kind of happiness as he updated us on Sasha's fate. According to him, Sasha has been enrolled last month into another school, but she had been immediately expelled in a bid to satisfy curiosity, and my mother asked the reason, and my dad noted that Sasha had gotten into a fight with the cheerleader of the new school. And because her bad record had followed her down there, the school immediately expelled her while suspending the cheerleader. My father was confused about what to do, and I'm currently encouraging him to end things with Camellia and Sasha and move on with his life. You know, things may not be perfect between us, and it might take a while after he had kicked Camellia and Sasha completely out of his life. Well, before we start building our relationships again, but it is consoling to know that the union between my father and his toxic family would soon come to an end. My hand is healed and I have applied to college, and I just feel sad that I'll soon be leaving my mother, but she's in good hands with my stepdad.
You know, one thing I just can't quite understand about today's story is the father. I mean, it just, especially at the end, it seemed like he finally realized his error of the ways, but how? How can you go on for so long with so many incidents at school, and OP's mom was the only one holding OP together from falling apart because OP had everyone against her. Her stepsister, her stepmother, and even her own father. It just blows my mind that somebody can overlook their daughter just because he's married to a new woman. Anyways, it does seem like his life kinda went downhill. His new wife, she wasn't really making his life very joyful, and his stepdaughter was a nightmare. Going to a new school after everything that happened and still getting into a fight with one of the cheerleaders there, it just seemed like she was never going to change. Anyways, let me know in the comment section, if you were in OP's position, here's the question: would you forgive your dad and get back into his life? My name's Mr. Reddito, and if you guys are new to the channel, I drop a video every single day. And by the way, this isn't my only channel. I have 3 channels: Mr. Reddito Animated, Mr. Reddito Stories, and Mr. Reddito's Revenge. And a lot of you guys that watch all my channels, I know what you're probably thinking. Mr. Reddito, you haven't posted anything on Mr. Reddito's Revenge in, 2 weeks? Guys, I'm developing a new animation style, and it takes a little bit of time to get this stuff together. But don't worry, there's gonna be plenty of revenge stories coming up, but until then, just enjoy the other channels. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.